what I think a pro is. Yeah, we're about to get into that one. But here, whatever you do, please, 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 whatever you do, watch this for a little bit. Just watch this for a second before you even think about turning this off. You might be surprised, right? It might shock you. But even if you get shocked, don't turn off the video. I promise. I promise. Just hear me out, okay? Just hear me out. That's all I'm gonna say. This is what I think a pro is. What do I think a professional fisherman is? Look at it. Man, if you don't have all these things on your shirt, you don't have all these patches and logos and wearing cool swag, man, if you don't have your boat wrap and your truck wrap, but you gotta have trucks with big old tires on them and big lights and big everything else, and if you don't have your whole boat wrapped with stickers and everything like that, man, you ain't a professional. That's a professional. All this other stuff, nah, them guys ain't professionals. You gotta look the part, man. You gotta roll up there with your stickers and your swag, man, and that's when you know you've hit it big time right there. Come on, guys, really? Y'all know me better than that. Y'all know I don't think that's what a pro is. But yeah, here's my boat, right? It ain't wrapped. Hey, and remember, I don't have a problem having a wrapped boat. That's not the thing. I've had one for a little bit. It just doesn't make you a pro. Yeah, the big tires, that's my wife's truck. My truck, yeah, just a normal old truck. Just saying. It's just a joke, guys. All the guys with the big trucks and the boat wraps are gonna get all mad at me in this video. It's a joke, guys. If you're worried about that and get all offended, you got problems. I'm just gonna say that. Where my stickers go? Yeah, right there. Just on every sticker I ever get anywhere. Yeah, it just goes all over here. And my other stickers, they go on my kids' bikes or their water bottles, or I don't know. They're always stealing my stickers and putting them on weird random things around the house. Yeah, back to video. This is gonna be a weird answer. I am gonna have to say that. So, here goes nothing. Here's what I'll say first. There's gonna be two parts to this. It's gonna be one, me stating facts, okay? And there's gonna be one about what my opinion is. All right, my opinion is just what it is. But me stating facts, I think are the one that's gonna get everyone mad. Apparently, that's what happens in today's age, right? People state facts and people get mad. But I'm just going to state facts first, okay? Here goes nothing. All right. Right now, as it's constructed in the professional fishing, if you want to just look at who's fishing the professional events, like what constitutes a professional, and all I can go is basically on how other professional sports are, right? That's going to be my comparison. So at least we have that as a baseline. Now, in most professional sports, you go through, you know, I guess you can get hired off the street, right? But usually there's a dynamic that goes along. And once you get to be a professional, whether it be a basketball player, football player, whatever, it's really based on someone seeing your worth. Is your worth there, right? Can you help a team? On everything else, which is basically what fishing is, it's more individualized. So we kind of have to look at like golf, tennis, track, all those things. Like, so it's all performance based, right? You have to perform to get to this level. So basically, in our sport, it would be qualifying, right? You would have to qualify to get to the upper echelon of our sport. That's what you would think, right? But here's the problem. It's trying to be set up that way, but it's not followed, okay? So I'll start with Bassmaster. At one time, Bassmaster did have it, but even when it started long time ago, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think the qualification wasn't like it was today. Bass fishing, even when it started, you just had to really pay to play, okay? You just had to pay to play. Then the BP 150 started happening, and there were some qualifications. Hallman's kind of filled me in on it, but and from there, you know, that's how it started. Now, the crazy thing about that is even in like golf and tennis and things, sometimes there's pre-qualifiers and you have to keep qualifying. In the elites back then, some of the guys that were there stayed around for years and I just bring this up. Now, there wasn't a bunch of them, but there was guys at the bottom that shouldn't have requalified. They did because they didn't have anyone to replace them. Okay, I remember when I qualified in 2009. I think the guys Cliff Crochet qualified in our group. I think Edwin Evers, I know he wasn't trying to qualify, but requalified. So me, Chris McCall, and I think Steven Johnson. I can't. There was, I think, one other guy who actually went to the elites as well. But us three, me, Steven Johnson, Chris McCall, we qualified and did not take the invitation. It was, we're talking 11 years ago. It was still kind of hard to come up with money and the way it was all set up. I mean, it wasn't just easy to go out there and say, okay, this is what we're going to go do. It's not like that now. We could have probably taken some people's spots, and so those people that were already there, they just got to keep fishing, stay in the elites. Okay, it's crazy too, because anywhere else, if you qualify and make it to that upper echelon, man, you're taking that. I don't care what you're doing, because you're going to get paid. Well, we weren't going to get paid. All we were going to do was have to spend a whole bunch more money. That's a whole nother story. So even back then, it wasn't always, there was a process involved, but it was still kind of a flawed process because of everything. Then you had the tour, FLW tour. Now, I didn't really pay that much close attention to the FLW tour. It was only when I started getting close to maybe fishing and stuff, I realized it meant nothing. Okay, yes, we had these qualifications through the they were Everstarts, Costas, whatever they were. It got you maybe this guaranteed in, but even then, like, I would have to go look, but I can promise you, if you go back, and you can go look this up, if you just go look up what's great about FLW, go look on their website, right? And you can type in any name that's ever fished in the FLW event, and it will have their stats, right? And it go back a long ways. I think mine go back to 2005 or whatever it was, 2006. And you can see like how many times I fished what they're called now the Toyotas, and they will have my ranking. Okay, so if you want to say qualified for the tour, sometimes it was top 5 or 10 or whatever it might be. I think right now it's top 5. I've done it like 7, 8, 9, 10 times. I don't know. So I've qualified to fish the tour. I want to say when I got to the tour, I'd be shocked if when I fished, maybe half those guys fished actually qualified. A lot of those guys were just paying their money, and then you really got to get in if you're a Ranger owner. Okay, just call it what it is. I don't know if y'all realize that if you owned a Ranger, you had priority over other people. So it was basically, if you bought a boat, you had priority over other people, a certain type of boat, to fish a major tour. Like, you were called a professional. So don't even get me started with that. Now, here's the part that might really like turn some heads, but it's a fact. I'm telling you, this is a fact. Don't get mad at me when I say this. Everyone on the MLF tour up until this upcoming year is going to be different, but everyone on the MLF tour, not one of those guys qualified. I said it, not one qualified. It was all invitation only. They were invited to fish as a professional. Now, I'm going to throw this real quick. I want you to really listen, guys. There's going to be guys like, ripping their hair out listening to this. Just settle down and now listen. That doesn't mean they didn't deserve to be there. I'm saying most of them probably deserved to be there, but they did not qualify to fish that tour. They were invited. Okay? So no one qualified for that. It was invitation only. So it was basically a bunch of guys saying, hey, y'all are going to be professionals. Come fish this. Okay? It is what it is. That is a fact. Now, we have some guys showing up this next year, the Jeremy Lawyers, the Ryan Salzmans, the Cole Floyds. They qualified. Okay? They qualified. They are actually qualified to be there. That's all. I'm going to leave it at that. So, then you got the elites. Now, there's some elite guys now that when all that broke up, that didn't qualify for the elites. Elites didn't have enough people to fish. They needed to get some, so they started inviting guys from the tour. They didn't qualify. Now listen, they got some really guys that could fish. Don't get me wrong. And probably I would like to see, I'm not going to, sorry guys, I'm not going to do the research because I don't really care that much. Because it's, what does it matter? But if you went back, how many guys of those guys qualified to fish the tour, and then they got the, you know, the call to go fish the elites? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not going to go look that up. But what I'm saying is, there's probably 20, 30 guys over there that did not qualify as well to fish the elites. So you've got this big deal, but there's not one thing that says, hey, this is a entire field of qualified anglers. We all qualified to get here one way or the other, and there's a qualification process going through to where the guys that don't do good get kicked out. Because that's the problem. On all those tours, at some point in time, there were years where you shouldn't have gotten to come back and fish. The only reason guys were actually still getting in is because guys were quitting because money. Like they weren't making enough money to stay there. There's other guys that didn't matter. They had money. It didn't matter if they never got a check. There was guys for years on the elites that never cashed checks, that stayed there year after year after year. I don't really know how you that doesn't compute, right? So with that being said, that's my fact-based deal. Being a professional, this is my opinion, guys. I have no idea. Okay, and here's what I'm saying. Do I consider myself a professional fisherman? I think it's on one of my Facebook things where it says Todd Castledine professional fishing. It's just a professional fishing page. It is what it is. I could care less if someone says I'm not a professional. I'm not. I don't get hurt over that. I can promise you that. I fished pro events. We all fish pro events. Fish BFLs. They call you a pro or boater now or whatever it might be. Does that make you a professional? No. When people ask me what I do for a living, I never tell them I'm a professional fisherman. Other people say that about me. I don't. I was just like, hey man, I just fish for a living. And they're like, what do you do? I'm like, I fish tournaments for a living. That has been my sole source of income up until the past maybe year. So from about 23 years old, 21, 22, till about 35. No, 30 something. I would say 90% of all my income came from fishing tournaments. Like the money that I actually won from tournaments, that was my income. Did I guide? Back then, I might have guided like once or twice a year at the most. That was it. It was literally like what I won in tournaments was how I made a living. And that's what I did. And as I got older, you know, even for the longest time, I didn't even have sponsor help, like no sponsor. I'm talking about, if you look back at a lot of, like for those 7 or 8 years, man, I didn't even have a jersey or nothing. I mean, it was nothing. And then, you know, it wasn't until I think I won a boat in 2010 is when I had like something that had legend. I worked for Strike Pro for a while, so a lot of the times my jersey was just a Strike Pro jersey. I was just getting some baits and stuff, and they weren't paying my entry fees. That I got that happen maybe for a year or so, and stuff like that. So like it was basically all in entry fees. I mean, like I said, if you're looking at income about how much you make compared to what you're getting, that's where that 90% comes in, right? So 90% of my income. Now I figured out other revenue streams and working with Strike King and things like that. I wouldn't say it's 90%. It's still way on up there. I mean, it's pushing half. And I would say even before this past year, I would say it was 75 to 80% up until this actual last year. So that's it. That's where I would consider me fishing for a living. Like I based myself on taking tournament winnings, and that's my income. That's the way I looked at it. Now, a lot of people will say being a professional is doing these things where, you know, you travel around, you represent your companies very well, you do all these things, you are a professional, and hey, if that's what you want to call being a professional is also, that's fine too. Maybe you're Maybe you just call that, hey, I'm in the marketing business. I'm not sure. I don't really know what to tell you about that. Like, there's some guys that are really good at both. Like I said, I will never diminish that, because we always look at guys like, Kevin Van Dam and Scott Martin. They were probably the two biggest guys in the industry that were good at fishing. I mean, Van Dam's like next level good. But I mean, so like Van Dam was on the highest because he was the best fisherman and the best businessman when it came to products. Like, he was good at his job. Like, I'm telling you guys, I've been around that guy. He was untouchable at that job. Like, he was phenomenal. He worked harder than everyone else. He was the consummate professional with everything he did. So I would call him a professional on that aspect. But fishing a pro circuit, does that make you a professional? I mean, they kind of make it sound like it is. On a side note on this is where people, I'm gonna have to say this, because even on my last video, I don't think I expressed this very much. When a lot of guys sit there and go, well, what's sponsor help? Okay, do you get sponsor help? If a sponsor gives you $5,000 and pays for entry fees, or gives you $5,000 and you go pay your house notes, right? Doesn't matter. Just stay with me, right? Does that matter? That $5,000 can be used for anything. Someone is willing to give you $5,000. Really doesn't matter if I put it towards entry fees, my house note, my car note, insurance, whatever it might be. That's still me deciding what I want to go do with that $5,000. Now, they expect me to go fish that tournament, right? So I do have to pay $5,000, to go fish that tournament. So that's probably in the contract or in something going, hey, I'm going to go do this. Here's $5,000. I'm going to help you out with, right? So you're still gambling that money away. It might not be yours, but it's still kind of yours. You were given that to decide what you want to do with that. So I always laugh. Everyone's like, oh, you're getting $50,000 this year to go fish and do all those things. You might be, and you're having to do a lot of stuff like, wrap your trucks and boats and do all these things and travel around the country and everything. But chances are, say that's $50,000 is a great amount. If you're fishing the tour, that's washed even, which means you have to figure out if you got no other dollar that year. So you better figure out how to go win some money on tour. And like I said, guys were not even winning money on tour. Like, if you look at the FLW tour, the elites, so you'll see guys that don't get checks almost all year, or get one check, 10 grand. I can tell you, everyone at McDonald's is making more than 10,000 a year, right? So you've got to think about that. So is that a professional? Someone who makes $10,000 a year? Like, say that it all gets paid for it. Your check, your income for the year was $10,000. Man, that would be a tough thing, to call yourself a professional. It's happening. I just don't look at it. So I always just say, hey, look, I fished for a living. Like, that's what I do. But being a professional, man, it's always going to be one of those weird deals. All that other stuff I said at the beginning of the video, guys, it's just a flat out joke. We all know it. And it is what it is. Sounds better, right? Sounds better to be called a professional. Sounds better to your sponsors and everything else that might not really know what's going on. But when it comes down to it, I always looked at it this way. You can do whatever you want to do. You can say whatever you want to say about all that stuff. I didn't really care about any of that. I just wanted to figure out how to keep fishing the next year. There wasn't a college class on how to become a professional fisherman. There wasn't this book that laid it out. And I don't think there ever will be. I think what you can do is take advice from some guys that have tried to figure out their best way and that have made it, and pick the guys. You can pick the guys that still had a bunch of money, right? That had a bunch of money, that didn't have to maybe try the way others did. They still made it, and maybe they figured out ways to really excel in the business part with the sponsorships and everything like that. Like, I still take tons of advice. There are some things that I don't do well. One is asking. I'm the world's worst. I just don't ask. I'm not a guy who goes around asking for things. So I've never said that publicly, but like, I'm just not a guy that does that. I'm the worst at it. I always had this like thing inside of me that wanted to do it on my own. I remember even when I was really younger, uh, I remember not having anything. You know, when you're younger, you don't realize you don't have anything. But I was like, I was in high school and I'd see these guys with team. I don't even want to say the boats, but they would have these. There'd be like 6 or 7 of them at this tournament, and they'd have this team, whatever boat. I'm not gonna say the boat, but they'd have them. They'd be over there in their little jerseys, or they weren't even jerseys. They were just shirts back then. And I just looked at them. I'm like, man, we beat these guys in every event, you know. But they're over there. I didn't know if they were I didn't know anything about that, right? I was just this little young kid fishing. And I was like, man, I'm going to make it big. And I'm going to walk up there with my white t-shirt and I'm going to show everyone. Like, that was my thought process back then. Now I look at it different, because I do realize that some of the sponsors I have now, these aren't just sponsors, right? These aren't just people, companies. Like these people are like, man, they're my friends. Like, I talk to them all the time. I'm cool with them. Like, we all hang out, we go fishing. Like, they take care of me, I try to take care of them. Like, they're good quality companies. I like them, right? So I enjoy that relationship I have with them. But back then I didn't know that, right? So, but anyways, yeah, like all that looking back, it's changed my view. I don't mind to admit I wasn't necessarily wrong. I just didn't know. That's my viewpoint on professional fishermen. I don't really know what you want to call it, but yeah, looking at it with a pro in front of your name when you sign up for an event and they just ask you, hey, are you a pro or co? That shouldn't make you professional. I promise you that. Like, maybe just let someone else call you professional. Let them do it. Maybe just not you. I don't know. Good for thought. See y'all guys.